So it's been a really bad day in the office for Team India at Budapest 2023. And I'll open with the real bad news, which is that our star 3,000 meter steeplechase Avinash Sable, he's a national record holder. There was a lot of expectation on him. He has failed to qualify for the final round of the World Athletics Championships, and he finished a disappointing seventh in the heat, which is a shocking result in Budapest. Shelly Singh, our long jumper, also failed to qualify, but that is another story. And let's head over to Budapest, where Sandeep Mishra is waiting with all the latest that he has. Sandeep, even before Avinash Sable ran, we had conversations about him, and you were very pleased with the way he was shaping up. His performance at Tokyo was also commendable. He spent a lot of time in the United States, and let's face it, the sports ministry invested a lot in him. But in the end, it was just so wrong, and it was pretty gut-wrenching and a very emotional moment when you spoke with him, with some other journalists outside, and he was on the verge of even breaking down.
Yeah, at the end of it, criticism comes rather easy to all of us back in India, but you still got to feel for a guy who's broken the national record multiple times. He's had a great run at the Commonwealth, and everybody expected a final. Yeah, to say that one would have expected a top six probably would have been expecting a little too much, but a final was there, and I think if you really look at both the heats, and sometimes this is the thing about 1500, the 3000 steeplechase, and even the 5000, probably not the 10,000 to that extent, but the 3000 steeplechase is one of the most tactically run races. Bakali ran the second heat. Unfortunately, I couldn't watch it. He's a big star, Olympic champion, and that's the time when we wanted to speak to Sable. But if you look at the timing of Bakali, who finished second, it was a dead heat, I think. His timing was 8:23. 8:22 was Sable. So that particular heat, the second one was slower than the first one in which Sable was, and then you had the third heat, which was extremely fast at 8:15. So I think it's all about setting the pace, and a guy like Bakali, he prefers the slower ones. If I just go back to Doha at the Diamond League, where incidentally Neeraj Chopra had picked up the first spot. Girma and Bakali were there in the 3000. That was not a steeplechase, but it was a 3000, and the pace was electrifying. It was like amazing the way they were running. But I think it's here that probably on the last lap, if you really look at the last one and a half and last one, that's where he should have probably kicked. It's easy for me to stand here, relaxed and say it. It's extremely difficult to figure out what really happened. But yes, it's heartbreaking. It's probably back to the drawing board and looking forward to the Asian Games. It's going to take him couple of weeks to probably get over this, because this comes once in 2 years. In India, we sometimes forget, looking at the way other sports are run, that you get a chance every week to do something or the other out there. But out here, this is once in 2 years. Asian Games once in 4 years. Olympic Games once in 4 years, and it must be terrible for Sable to probably understand and think what could have been probably didn't happen.
Sandeep, it was a tactical race, and let's also admit it that the Sable is 28 years old, and who knows how much time he has at his disposal. He was gutted, he was devastated, and like you kept asking him कि आपको क्या लगा टैक्टिकल रेस में कहीं आपसे कुछ गड़बड़ हो गई, कहीं कुछ आप शायद समझ नहीं पाए. Even I heard two other voices, obviously, of senior journalists there with you who were empathizing. No one was being critical of him. Then they just tried to understand that, hey, tell us what went wrong. And on the face of it, he was the lead runner at the 2,300 meter mark, but lost momentum later on. And especially in the last lap, to clock well below his national record time of 8:11. So something tactically went wrong. And he also said that हाँ शायद कुछ tactically गड़बड़ हो गया, कहीं कुछ problem आ गई. You also asked him क्या आपको क्या box in किया गया था? So he said शायद किया गया हो. What is your takeaway? And in simple terms for our viewers, can you explain that number one, what is a tactical race? And second is, when they are boxed in like this, what do they do?
I think if you really look at it, that in the last, I think, at probably the 1300 mark, um, he was holding the race. If you go through the analytics of his race, I mean, he started from the fifth position in the moment he started off. Then he went to third, second, fourth, fifth, seventh, ninth. He was for I think probably around the 1,000 meter mark. He was hovering around the ninth, but he pulled back. He pulled back to almost third. He pulled back to first. With around I think with 600 meters to go, I think everything went wrong where he had to take a decision. I think the decision was, should I now go for the kick? Should I now, or is it going to be too early? Will they catch up with me? I think the decision making in these races has to be has to be perfect. You really can't go wrong. At the end of it, the top five have to qualify. You got to be in that group. The group is going to wait for you. Every group waits for somebody going to take a break. I think Sable had nothing much to lose, in a sense that if he would have gone for the break, I think he would have gone with it. Because if you really look at the interview, he says, I'm not feeling tired. I had done all the pacemaking, I had done everything right in the US. The training was perfect. So I think it is a decision. I think it is a decision every athlete makes whether to go for the break now or to hold back. I think he held back. And probably that's where, like you asked, whether he got boxed in. Yes, he got boxed in. So when you get boxed in, what do? You probably go to the right. And the moment you go to the right, you are steering clear of at least a couple of degrees, 3 degrees to the right, which, for a layman like all of us, we feel, what the hell is 2 degrees to the right? But it makes a lot of difference because you still have to veer around and come. You know, I'll just take a little more time to explain Bakali Girma. These are not exact examples that one can really compare, but we are comparing this because these are two of the best runners in the 3000 steeplechase right now. Bakali is a slow starter. Everybody knows that. He hovers around 11.9, 10, 11.9, 10 in the first 1,000 meters, even. He's not that kind of confidence. But you just look at his stats. By the time you hit 1,500, he was in number three, which means half the race gone. He's already at number three. And after that, he never lets go. He's always at 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 till the end. He will keep hammering away. But he he kind of he always remains at the back for the first 1,000. I don't know what he does with that 1,000, but he probably is making up his mind. He's probably setting a pace that the others are probably looking, because the others are probably trying to figure out where the hell is Bakali. Everybody wants to beat him, but he's right at the back. And by the time it's 1,000 meters, he's understood the pulse and the pace. I think that's what makes great 3,000 meter steeplechase runners. But then you look at Girma. He started off from 8, 10, and then he went on to third by the time it was 400 meters. At the 1,400-meter mark, he was at number one. And after that, he only came twice. In the next 200 meters, he was second. But in the last 7 to 800 meters, Girma just ran. I mean, like he was like a flash. He was in first position constantly. What I'm trying to say is that at the end of the day, you still got to make a decision in a race like the steeplechase. Yes, you can still come in fifth, you can still come in fourth, but the decision has to be so perfect that you end up qualifying. You can't let that go.
The other point about Sable is, which with me, all our viewers would also want to understand from you, is that when you say you go for the kick, which means that once you go for the kick, you have to be very, very sure that you have enough fuel in the tank. Your legs should back you. All your tactical strategy, your acumen, your strength, your training should kick in, and you should be 200% sure that, well, I can lead the race. So is there a problem somewhere which is because of lack of confidence, or when the training is on and he spent quite a bit of time in the United States, could something else have been done to help him?
No, I mean, you really look at the last two laps. I mean, everybody felt that, leading, he would probably at the max become what, second, third, fourth. But to see him fading away was probably, I think, moment he says that, I am not feeling tired. But the bigger question is that when the last 100 meters was being run, I don't think he was in a position to make up. And for to make up, you got to have speed. I think by that time his mind was gone. You know, it's when we say a mind is gone, it's just that it just stops working and trying to figure out how the hell do I come back. I think at that stage he realized that it's very difficult to make up for the last 20 meters, 30 meters. If you see the last 50 meters, look at the way he's running. He probably lost everything there because his mind keeps telling him, what the hell is happening? This can't happen to me. I can't be at this position, in the race where I'm not even qualifying. I think that destroys you a bit. And that's when you start panicking. Arup, once a 3,000 meter steeplechaser or a 5,000 or a 10,000, even 800, 1,500 for matter, starts panicking, that's the time when the others sense it and then they box you out. I think, leave alone others sensing it, he himself panicked at that particular point. He should have stuck to that one and two. He should have stuck to one and two because at the end of it, you have to qualify. You got to go to the final and then you can run tactically whichever race you want.
Okay, let's look at the timings of three important people. One is, of course, Arman Sable. He did about 8:11 and he got knocked out of the finals. Then you mentioned world record holder Girma of Ethiopia. He has got the best time going into the finals with 8:15, and which he won in heat number three. Then Bakali of Morocco, who was second in the heat with 8:23. Now there is not a huge dramatic difference in the timing, say between an 8:11 and an 8:15, and yet Sable gets knocked out.
I think this is only meant to qualify. You got to be there. Of course, people like Girma or athletes like Girma and Bakhali always want to hold the edge when they're going into the final. So for them to finish 1-2 if they can, they always want to be there, leading from the front. But look at 7:56 of Bakhali. He's already run 7:56. So you just understand for a person to run 8:23 today, he's done a 7:56 also. Just look at the gap and just imagine what this final is going to be. Look at the pace that these guys are going to set. I think Girma is going to set the pace, Bakali is going to follow, and you just might see something really extraordinary happen. But coming back to the qualifying is meant to be just one thing, and that is to qualify somehow or the other. You got to be in the top five. Otherwise, it just becomes difficult. It just becomes heartbreaking. What we have seen with Sable, it's terrible. I mean, from every point of view, you look at an athlete. I mean, so much effort, so much work. You know, I honestly, I'm not a great fan of the government putting so much money and all. The government puts that money into a lot of other activities, and we don't even account for all of that. But here, it's not about accounting for Sable. Sable is an extraordinarily talented runner. Today he's failed. Maybe he's going to make it up in the Asian Games. And as you said, he's 28. I think most of these runners age well, they run well, they get experience, and then they start really running well. I think we need to put our cards on Sable. Today was just one of those days when he hasn't done well. That's it. I mean, there are hundreds of other athletes from so many countries who probably might fail at the World Championships. Understand this is a World Championship. Understand he's running against people who've done 7:56, 8. So there's a lot of stuff that happens once you get onto those tracks, and I think this is the time for anybody, government or otherwise, to support Avinash completely.
Absolutely. And one last point I would like to ask you about Avinash Sable for now, which is, like you said, that he has done his best. He's an outstanding athlete, and it was pretty devastating for someone like me to watch him in that frame of mind when he's so gutted and devastated, heads down, bending over. He needs a leg up. But as a human being, do you think it might have an adverse impact on his mind heading into the Asian Games in September and then the biggie of the Paris Olympics, which is next year?
Uh, no, I don't think so. I think at the end of the day, you get over it. You get over it not simply because you got to get over it. You get over it because you're a professional athlete. These things happen. I mean, they are trained. Their minds are trained to understand where you can run, how much you can run, what are the timings you expect. Yes, it's going to take him a month. It's going to take him a month, but he's got to be faster because you got the Asian Games just coming up. So I think the coaches, everybody's going to work on him. Probably see where he went wrong. There are somebody was saying that he had probably the water jump was bad. I tried to look at most of these footages, but I think even if the water jump was slightly tricky for him at that particular stage, he should have come out of it. That is why you train. You train to get hold of the adverse circumstances that might happen. You never train because okay, this is what good is going to happen to me. I'm going to run at this pace. No, most training happens that if something goes wrong, can I be flexible enough? I think that is where the coaches probably need to understand, tell him, which they will, of course, and somehow get him prepared for the Asian Games. The Asian Games is big. Asian Games, he needs to be there. He needs to be on the podium.
Right. So all the best to Avinash Sable, and really, really hope that he comes out of it quickly, like you're saying. And Asian Games could be a turning point for him on the podium, which sets him up for the bigger event of the Paris Olympics. So all the best to you, Avinash, and don't lose heart. Moving on, in the 20-kilometer race walk, our performance was also quite disastrous today. Vikas Singh finished 28th in a time of 1 hour 21 minutes. Paranjit Singh 124 and Akashdeep Singh 131. So they were 35th and 47th in a field of 50 athletes, which is quite poor. And Akashdeep also, for him, it must have been very disappointing as he came last in the race. 2 athletes did not finish while 1 was disqualified. So Sandeep, even yesterday when we were having a chat, you said you did not have much hope from this event, and you obviously had your reasons for that, and that seems to have come true.
Yeah, I mean, well, you can't really take an excuse like the event was advanced by a couple of hours because it was raining and all of that in the morning here. It's the sun is out now, and I think the weather is going to hold completely for the next 8, 9, 10 days of the World Championship. But yes, it was an expected result. At the max, I think everybody would have been in a celebratory mood, a good mood, if the top 10 slot or a top 8 or a top 12 would have been achieved, because then you know that there is progress. But this is not progress. This is by no standards progress, because there are other guys who are in the top 6, top 8, top 10, top 12 who didn't bother about the conditions that were there. So I think if anybody says anything about the conditions, well, let's not talk about conditions. Let's talk about progress. Let's talk about how you're going to achieve a particular result.
Okay, and before we move on to Shelly Singh, let's listen in to a soundbite from Avinash Sable.
देखो सर, हर चीज हर एक रेस से बहुत कुछ सीखने को मिलता है, लेकिन अब ऐसा लगता है कि हम हर चीज़ मतलब इतना मेहनत कर रहे हैं, तब भी अगर हमें नहीं मिल रही है तो मतलब बहुत बुरा लगता है। क्योंकि कुछ टाइम ऐसा लगता है कि ये फील्ड छोड़ के फिर अपना दोबारा छोड़ के चली जाए, क्योंकि प्लेयर अपना हर मतलब दिन रात लगाता है इसके लिए। मुझे नहीं लगता कि मैं अपनी तरफ से कोई कमी छोड़ी है, लेकिन अगर जिस चीज़ के लिए हम प्रिपेयर हुए अगर वो नहीं करते तो डेफिनेटली बुरा लगता है। उस तरह की अभी भी बॉडी टाइट नहीं है, तो मतलब उस चीज़ का ऐसे खुद को मतलब संतुष्ट नहीं होते कि अगर हम जिस चीज़ के लिए प्रिपेयर हुए थे अगर हम नहीं कर पाए तो खुद को अच्छा नहीं लगता कि हम लोग क्या बोलेंगे, इससे बुरा नहीं लगता। लेकिन ये खुद को लगता है कि अगर हम जो उम्मीद करके हम जो मेहनत कर रहे थे वो सिर्फ सब पानी में गए, ऐसे खुद को लगता है। जब कि हम सिर्फ ये 3-4 महीने से सिर्फ मतलब इसी के पीछे भाग रहा था कि कोई टारगेट नहीं। लास्ट 3-4 महीने से यूएसए में कंपटीशन और ट्रेनिंग कर रहा था, लगता था कि इस बार बहुत अच्छा होगा सच में, क्योंकि मैं अपना जो वर्कआउट है वो आज तक का बेस्ट वर्कआउट करके आया था। ना तो हमने स्पीड में कमी थी, ना एंड्योरेंस का कोई वर्कआउट कमी थी। और इस साल 3 डायमंड लीग भी खेला था, तो मुझे नहीं लगता था कि मैं मतलब इस तरह का, मैं बिल्कुल नहीं सोच रहा था कि मैं फाइनल तक भी नहीं जा पाऊंगा। बुरा लग रहा है, बाकी देखते हैं।
थैंक यू।
नहीं सर, सच में अगर मतलब ये तो क्या है, ये नहीं है, लेकिन जिस हिसाब से कोच सोच के आ रहे थे कि मतलब मेडल जीतेंगे सर, बहुत बुरा लगता है कि मेडल तो सर ठीक है लेकिन फाइनल भी नहीं जा पाए तो बुरा तो लगता है सर।
लाइफ है, सीखने को मिलता है।
लाइफ अब डाउन चलते सर, लेकिन कितना
करोगे, अच्छा करोगे, बस आपको विश्वास। ठीक है, हिम्मत रखो। थैंक यू थैंक
Thank you.
यू अपना शरीर का ख्याल रखो
बुरा तो लगता है, says Avinash Sable, speaking to NNIS Sports, and our team is at Budapest covering the World Athletics Championships. Let's move on to Shelly Singh, 19 years old, and she has been under training by Anju Bobby George's husband, and Anju has also been mentoring her for quite some time. But like Sandeep said, that it would be too much of a hard ask to expect her to be on the podium, and for various reasons. So his point was yesterday that she should take it as a moment in time to experience competing with the best, soak in the atmosphere, prepare herself for what is to come. And she finished 24th out of 36 athletes and competing in the event, leaping 6.30 meters on a third attempt. And only the top 12 athletes advance to the finals. Sandeep, your thoughts on Shelly?
I think, honestly, if she would have got a top 12 position, which means going into a final, that itself would have been a large improvement. Other than the improvement, it would have put her into a exclusive club. When I say exclusive club, I don't mean in the way of records and all. What I mean is that she would have been among the best there in Budapest, understanding, trying to learn from the others, and getting a feel of competition, what it feels to be in a world championship final. I think that probably is a regret that most of us would probably have. I mean, she would of course feel the regret much more deeper. She's the one who puts everything on the line. But I think, yes, experience wise, she's still going to gain from here. She's going to gain massively. She'll understand where she went wrong. She's got great coaches who will probably now prepare her. She's 19. At the end of the day, we need to understand that age, that pressure does come to you. Pressure comes to you in different forms. So I think probably, yeah, I mean, she's done well at the Asian Championships. Uh, let's look forward to what she creates at the Asian Games.
So you're repeatedly saying she's only 19 and pressure does come to you unless you happen to be Sachin Tendulkar at 16.
Yeah, I hate comparing sport, honestly. As I
Right.
said, this is once in 2 years. She's not going to get a chance next week to get 100. She's not going to get a chance next week to get a 5 wicketer or a 3 wickets or 2 wickets. She still has to go back into training. She still has to do once in a 4 year cycle. I think at the end of the day, somewhere we Indians need to understand what is world athletics. What is athletics on the big stage? We don't, because we are so caught up in the moment of everyday test match, T20 and ODI. We honestly don't understand all these things, all the possibilities that an athlete faces or doesn't face. As you said, when you were asking the question, it's that moment. Now, that moment, one can understand that, yes, the moment is also with Sachin Tendulkar at some point of time, and with all the batters that we have and the bowlers, the same moment is with them. But as a 19-year-old competing against some people who are competing through and through against top class competition through the year, I think one needs to understand that probably it's going to take her a couple of years, 3 years, 4 years, because she also needs to get that feeling in that, this is a world championship and this is how I need to compete. I think more and more competitions are going to lead to that. The diamond leagues are going to be there for her. All of that is going to happen. It happened in Neeraj Chopra's case. We have all seen that. He didn't just arrive, you know, out of nowhere. He also built himself up. The U20. She's also got a silver at the Junior World Championship. So I think the pace is being set right. So expect her to really do something good in the next couple of years, 3 years at the max.
And let's also remember what Anju Bobby George did, and she should also be really cherished in this country, where she won a bronze medal at the World Championships in 2003 and finished fifth at the Olympics in Athens in 2004. And since then, no other athlete has been able to come anywhere close to what Anju Bobby did. Do you One last point, Sandeep, on Shelly, that because she's being mentored by Anju Bobby and her husband is a prominent coach, so that would make a dramatic difference to her fortunes going ahead.
Of course, I think it will make a dramatic difference even today evening, even when they sit down and really work out what really went wrong or what went right there. I think most of it went wrong in terms of at least jumping. probably a little more. I mean, her own records need to be. I mean, she would have got a personal best. Fantastic, you know. That's what progress means in world athletics. You go out there, you get a stage like this, you do a PB at least. You know, your personal best needs to be up there. And I think when Anju and everybody sits with her, they're probably going to tell her that. They're going to probably go back and give you a whole list of 19-year-old athletes. Either you're extraordinary in terms of talent, that you just burst on a world stage and you just create a whole record for yourself in terms of age and everything. But then there are athletes like Shelly who come the hard way. They have to come up through a system that we have, the sub juniors and the juniors, and then somebody scouts or spots you and then puts you onto the system, and that's where you start improving. I think all of that probably is going to help. And I do believe, as we say, a 19-year-old, what does a 19-year-old gain from here? Gains experience. Experience comes from losses. They don't come from victory as much, because when you are winning, you already know you at a particular level. So I think she's going to gain more today than she's probably gained at any point of time in her career till now.
Okay, we'll call it a wrap today. And it has been a pretty disappointing day in office for the Indian contingent, but hopefully there's a lot in store, and we should come up with some events where, like Sandeep is saying repeatedly, they should be in the finals, they should qualify and hope for the best and enjoy that experience and prepare themselves for bigger events in future. So on that note, we'll say bye for now, and bye to Sandeep, and goodbye and good luck to our team in Budapest, and all the best.
Thank you. Bye.